So let's talk about 3 reasons why I strongly encourage you to do open houses or let your realtor do open houses when you are selling your home in the Villages, Florida. Now, if you're outside of the Villages, this might change from town to town, from state to state, but in the Villages, Florida, I'm going to give you 3 things that I have seen that really just show why open houses work so much. So the first thing is it creates this excitement around your home. I can't tell you how many times people don't want to miss out. They see other people in the home, and almost to a fault sometimes. This year I've had 2 offers that got put in because of an open house, and then they reneged. It was like buyer's remorse. They pulled out. So in that sense, it was not a good thing. But in general, it can be a very good thing. And by the way, those houses did have happy endings. We did get buyers, the right buyers for those homes. But there is this excitement, and people, they don't want anyone else to snatch up the home without them, right? Before them. And the neighbors too, the neighbors get in the home. It creates this energy, this excitement, and it will up your offer. So if your buyer is in the house, when you have other neighbors in there and other people in there looking, even if they're not 100% buyers, they might just be lookers. It still is going to light a fire under your buyer and elevate what they would put in for their and I'm going to share some stories of how it really does elevate the cost that they're going to pay. Secondly is there a lot of times your open house is going to attract people that normally wouldn't go to the house to begin with. Maybe they just stumbled across an open house sign. Maybe they saw it on Zillow, however they saw it, and they just kind of said, maybe they didn't even want to bug their realtor that day. They just said, oh, I'm just going to go in. And they ended up falling in love with the home. Sometimes it can be a very emotional decision. And third is they're gonna see and touch and feel and smell that home, and it's way different than being just online. Now, I have an amazing photographer who I'm so blessed to say he does my photography. He does things professionally throughout the state and here in Central Florida. He does an amazing job, but sometimes even he just doesn't quite show the home in its full glory, right? Sometimes I have people that say, oh my gosh, this looks way different than it does in the pictures. And again, I brag about my photographer all the time, but it is very different when people are in person. They see the home, they can feel that space, and even the neighborhood, to understand, okay, that the local pool is only a minute away. They get to see the amenities that are going on. So I want to share some of the stories of literally from this year and last year that I had. I'll start with last year. I had three buyers right off of the open house that ended up buying that home that they came to the open house in, and one of them, they have bought and sold in the Villages. I think they said 7 times. So they didn't think it was going to be something that they were going to jump on. It was actually a summer day. It was like 100 degrees that day, and I was sweating just getting my open house sign out. And it's kind of like, during the summertime in the Villages, you're sitting in an open house. You're lucky if you get 1 or 2 people, but those 1 or 2 people, chances are going to be very, very serious. So here I was, summer day. These people came into the open, and they were asking questions. I told them all about the home. I realized very quickly they were very serious. They ended up putting in an offer, and they just fell in love with the home. So online, they didn't think that it was the home for them. But once they were in it, they just experienced it. They saw the quality, the upgrades, everything, and they knew it was for them. So this year, I went back just today. So we're in May of 2026. And I went back and I looked at my last 10 transactions. And out of the last 10 transactions, 4 of them for sure, you can kind of count 5 and I'll tell you why, but 4 out of 10 buyers actually came from the open house. Now the 5th one, I won't actually count her. I had the seller on that one, but I remember, so when I met her after she purchased the home, I didn't even meet her. until afterwards I recognized her face. I definitely greeted her in an open house. But again, I will not count her because I don't know if her agent was going to show her the home anyway. But four for sure. So four people bought the home that they saw in an open house. One of them was one of my buyers, and the house was not even on their criteria. So these were good friends of mine. I set up multiple searches. We were looking for over 8 months together. And the house that they called me up and said, Joanie, we want to put in an offer on this house. I hadn't even shown them it. It wasn't even on the list. I was like, guys, this is not even the area that you said you wanted. They said, yeah, we know. We were out on Saturday. We saw this house. And again, it was just this emotional decision. Another one. So I do grand open houses. So when I list the home, I will have a grand open house and I'll give the neighbors 2 chances to come see it. So on day 1 of our listing, it's an open house for the neighborhood, and I always tell people, if you miss this one, in a couple of days we'll have a later one, and late afternoon we have goodies, we have good time. A lot of times I'll have music on, and people are excited, they want to come see, they're curious about their neighborhood, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's selling, what does Sally have down the street that they don't have. So a lot of times these neighborhood parties do really well. And there was a house that my son and I actually listed together. So my son does real estate as well. We listed this house together. We got our mailers out, and the day before we went live on market, so the people got the mailer the day before. That night, my seller called me and said, we have a buyer. So they had come over, they knocked on the door, they came, they took a look around, and they wanted to put in an offer. So I said, okay, great. So the next morning I went over there. We wrote up the paperwork. We got it all done. We were under contract, full price offer. And then lo and behold, they changed their mind. So 2 days later, it was just like I was mentioning earlier, it is just this excitement, this hustle bustle. They wanted me to cancel the open house. They said, are you going to cancel? I said, well, it's already in the newspaper and 1,500 people already have these mailers. So I'm not going to cancel, but out of respect for them, I didn't put it online. We just had the resources that were already out there. We still had about 20 people that came to that open house just from those mailers. And those buyers were like guarding their territory. They didn't want anyone else looking. They wanted to write up that paperwork really quickly. And again, lo and behold, they were the ones that they canceled. Not even 7 days later, we had 4 more offers on that home. One of them also, it was a full price offer. Again, it was a neighbor. They were excited, and then they decided, this doesn't make sense. They were literally across the street. They decided not to. But again, they knew about it from an open house flyer. And my son actually went door to door to invite people just in that general neighborhood. And they ended up getting so excited that they put in an offer too. So the 3 other offers, 2 of them were just, agents showing the home. The third one, which ended up being our final buyer, they went above asking price. And what happened was the 2 other offers came in. So I literally sat down with our sellers. We looked at all 3 offers together, and the third offer that came in that ended up being the winning buyer, they came from an open house. So remember I said I did the later times, I'll do the initial open house, and then if you can't make this one, you can join us on this date, like later in the afternoon, a couple days later. That was the open house that caught our buyer. And my son was hosting that one, and they just fell in love with the house. And again, there were all these people in there. They knew that there were other people interested in the house. There was this excitement, and their realtor, who was very, very smart, the way he put it in, because all 3 of these buyers really, really wanted the home. I actually felt really bad. It was emotional. It's not fun to be on the end of things where you have to tell 2 people, no, I'm sorry, you cannot have this house. So that was awful. Literally, we had to dismiss a cash buyer, another very well qualified buyer who were willing to pay full price or above that. So the offer that we ended up getting was above asking price. And again, it was because there was this excitement, this hustle, this bustle. So I encourage you to, you never know how it's going to go. Maybe you're listing your home and it's summertime and you're like, there's not going to be a lot of traffic. Maybe so, but you never know if those serious qualified buyers who live in the villages are just keeping their eye open for something, that perfect home that they've been looking for. Or maybe someone visiting, right, from out of town. You never know where that buyer is going to be. So I encourage you to put up with the open houses. Encourage your agent. If you and I are not working together, you should be. I'm just kidding. No, but encourage your agent to do open houses. And ask them what their marketing plan is, right? And maybe it's challenging for you to get out of the house. Maybe we need to customize that to you. I've had sellers in the past where, getting up and being mobile was very, very difficult. So we can plan around that, right? I've had sellers that had pets in the house, and we had to plan around, okay, the dog is here. We're gonna we're gonna notify the little dog. Of course, if you have a big dog, you're probably not in the villages, but there might be different things that we need to address and figure out how we're going to get around it, but we will. So again, I encourage you to consider the open houses, and thank you so much for watching. If you have experience with this, maybe you got your buyer off of an open house, I would love to hear. I'm actually at an open house right now, so it's a quieter one, but that doesn't mean anything, right? You never know where that buyer is going to come from. But I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear what worked when selling your home, or maybe you're thinking about it and there's other challenges that come up too. I would love to hear. I'll put my info in the description here. You can text me, call me, email me, and if I don't answer right away, it's probably because I'm hosting an open house. But thank you for watching. Have an amazing day, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.